everybody, it's me, Laura, and today we're going to create some Columbine vases. That's right, I got another project for you guys, and I think you're going to love this one. And I need to start right away with the vases themselves. So right here are the two examples. One is I just had in my stuff. It was something I picked up at a thrift store. And the other one was a bottle from Cracker Barrel that I had I was like, okay, just save the bottle back and let's see what we can do with it. So right here, I'm going to start with the vase, and I've got my gray clay. And this gray clay has been rolled out on my Atlas pasta machine on a number 4 setting. And I'm using my oval Keoker cutters, and we're just going to place that right over that strawberry thing that was on the original vase here. I was like, no, we want to be able to put our own little take on it, and I think it's just so much better. You know, I see these little tiny vases at times, and I think, oh my goodness, couldn't we improve this or make this just a little bit more fun for everyone? And so that's what I'm doing here. I'm just going to go ahead and cover both sides, and then I'm going to go ahead and create some, you might say, alternative little columbines. And if you're wondering how I do that, there is the video on my Columbine flower that I did just recently, so check that out if you haven't, and you can see how I've created these. Okay, so I've come in with my purple and white Skinner blend cane, and I'm just cutting off, or I cut off, 3 pieces. I drug the line up the center with my needle tool, and then I'm going to form and create the outer petals of the Columbine flower. However, in this case, like I said, I'm using the alternative ones, so we're not going to create a full-fledged 5-petal Columbine flower. Instead, we're going to just go ahead and make the smaller versions. And you want to do this on this vase. This thing is kind of a little bit of a high relief vase that I'm, building off of, because that gray is really my background to what I've got coming, all right? And you don't want a full-fledged Columbine flower. It'd be like, oh my goodness, this thing just sticks out forever. Yeah, no. This is where I really like my alternative Columbines, because they can fit better onto a piece like right here. And that's what I'm doing. I'm bringing that in. I'm going to put that little bit of green on there so I could get a nice stem. And I'll just kind of wrap that into this gray background. I mean, it's not going to be completely, it's just going to be curled over on the one edge there, and it'll just, I'll taper it off and cut that and let that be. Once I get this flower put into place, I'm going to bring in my yellow and magenta Skinner blend cane, and I'm going to cut one slice of that off of there, and I'm going to create kind of like an inner petal like I normally would for the Columbine, and I'll leave that line right there in the center like I usually do. But this time around, I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to wrap that thing in green. And when I wrap that in green, I'm going to go ahead and put just a little dot just to kind of make it into a flower, if you will, or the idea of it. And this works really good. This is kind of one of those little bit of a, okay, make-believe, make-believe kind of a thing, because I'm all into that. And I figure, just place that right alongside the other flower. I will then go ahead and add in the little green leaves here, just kind of off of the flowers. And then from there, I'm also going to add in a black and white checker and a few other little details. All right, so I need to place that second oval on the other side, and then here's the thing. Sometimes you don't get it exactly, dead on, and I wanted this thing to be as much on the very opposite side of this, where it was like a half and half, where the oval would look like it's exactly in place as to being halfway on from the other side of the other oval. And so if you have to, I'm eyeballing it here. I mean, that's kind of how I did this one. And then I brought in my flower, and of course, placing that down, I'll add in my own leaves and everything, and then I'll go in and I'll add in the checker too. Okay, so here I'm bringing in, and you could tell there's a bit of green clay right in the very top of that vase. This is the place of where I'm going to be sticking my flowers. And I pre-made that thing with some wire. I took some of that 22 gauge wire and I just stuck it down into this wad of green clay that I placed into the vase so it could conform to that vase structure. Once I had that though, I went ahead and I baked that. And that's pretty important here because I decided that I wanted to go ahead and bake up a little bit of this each at a time. And a lot of it too is so that you can handle this thing. Because if you just leave it all for the very, very end, you're going to have a mess. So my suggestion is complete up the flowers and the front ovals there, and then come back in like I'm doing here with that black and white checker and add that in and other details later, and then bake that part also. So don't do this all in one baking. Make sure you bake it a couple of different times, really to the point of where you just can't handle it anymore, and then you say, okay, I've got to bake it. And I bake this at 275 degrees from about 7 to 10 minutes. Okay, so I'm bringing in some more gray clay, and this has been done or rolled out on my Atlas pasta machine on a number 4 setting. And as you can tell, I'm taking my straight blade here, my tissue blade, and I'm just cutting these curvy little kinds of lines, right? And I'm going to take each one that I bring up and I'm going to place that onto my vase design. So this can get a little bit more fun here. And you could tell, when I cut off that black and white checker there, you're probably like wondering, why did she do that? That looks kind of weird. Well, this was so I could go ahead and come in and do something like this, where I could bring in a little bit of that flattened gray clay and just have a little bit of fun curling it around onto the vase. From here, I come in and I add some more of those same gray strips, just kind of winding around onto the vase. I'll do it on this one side here, and then I'll come over to the other side. I'll do the same thing. And then I come in with some magenta balls and I indent them with my knitting needle. Once I have that done, I also decided to bring in a gray leaf just as an added detail for the heck of it. I could have made it green, but I thought, no, I wanted to save that green mainly for the main ovals, and I thought that worked. So I decided to bring in a gray leaf on these little strands here that are kind of coming off of here. Once I have this done, I come in with my knitting needle and I'll go ahead and create a little bit of a texture on these flattened gray strips. At this point, I've baked this vase again, okay? Because I needed to get that gray and those magenta balls and everything. I needed that baked so I could go ahead and handle it to do this. I needed to bring in my black and white, and this is actually off of a stack, a black and white stack, and I would say I made that stack on my number 3 setting with my Atlas pasta machine, and I'm just taking a piece of it and I'm going over that gold kind of little border there on the very top. I didn't like it. I thought it doesn't tie into what I got going on, so let's go ahead and cover it over. And so that's what I do here. I just cover it over. I tailor the piece that's kind of hanging out there like that so that it'll be trimmed up into the vase part. And I just go with that black and white checker type feature all the way around the opening. Now that I have that black and white taken all the way around that opening bit, we're going to bring in that wad of green clay, and I'm going to start placing in my columbines. And I'm just bringing in, I had quite a few. I had like 4 or 5 or a few more. And I thought, I need to put these somewhere. And so if you were wondering, from the last video I had done where I had shown how to make the Columbine flower, what do I do with these things? Well, this is where you can really use it. You could put it into a small little vase like this and present it as a gift to anyone special in your life so that they may find joy in it whenever they see it. And so this is what I did here. I just thought, bring in my columbines, go ahead and take up some of that extra gray wire, but tailor it to the point where really, you're going to be acting as a florist here. You're going to be arranging your flowers into your little vase, and you're going to have a fun time doing so. From here, I went ahead and brought in some more of my green clay, and I decided to make some little bit larger kinds of green leaves, and that's because we need to place those into the vase so it covers up all the extra little holes that you might have poked into the vase. It also makes it where I create it so that there's a couple of holes that are still showing, and that's because I want to go ahead and place some of that 22 gauge wire in so I can curl it up and make it look kind of a little bit more fanciful in the end. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and create our second vase, and I'm using that Cracker Barrel bottle. And right here, I've got my gray clay. This has been rolled out on a number 4 setting on my Atlas pasta machine, and I'm just creating kind of a long strip of it, trying to make a really nice, decent kind of line all the way around. I cut off the one end here, and then I'm going to just place that down on the main body of this particular bottle. Once I have that down on the bottle, I use a combination of my tissue blade, my scissors, even my X-Acto knife if I need to help join up the 2 ends around on the other side. But once I have this, we're going to start bringing in some of that bow tie cane that I had created, I would say not too long ago. So if you're curious as to how I created my bow tie cane, you can always go back, and right here it's been reduced down quite a bit. I mean, this thing was close to a little over 1/4 of an inch, I do believe, and it's very tiny, right? But I'm going to use this on the gray here, and I'm placing just like little tiny checkers, or I should say triangles, of that pattern just right along the edge, the top edge there, all right? Once I have that down where it goes all the way around, I'm going to bring in my magenta clay. I'm going to roll it out on my Atlas pasta machine on a number 4 setting. And I'm going to take that magenta, which is the same thickness as the gray on the bottom. I'm just going to kind of wrap this around, just right up against that gray edge. Now once I have that going along, I then trim off one side so it's nice and flush. I'll bring it around so it meets up. I'll trim it up again kind of with my scissors just like I did the gray. Once I have that down though, what I like to do, especially on this, as you can tell, I brought in my blade and I can form it right around that bottom edge. It just makes it a nice way to, taper this off so it looks like it was meant to be that way. I'm, again, just kind of coming in with my blade, trying to make that finished up where it looks really nice. Once I have this magenta all the way around though, I'm going to come back in with some more of that bow tie cane and some checker. I'm going to bring in my checker. I thought, let's go ahead and bring some in. I can't help it. I can't get away from my checker. I love it too much. So I made a nice thin strip of this, and I decided to go ahead and place that really right over where the magenta and the gray kind of meet up. Then I decided to bring in that bow tie cane one more time, and this time this cane was about 1/2 inch in diameter, and I had put like 4 sections together, so I had more of a pattern than just my single one like I have right here. And I placed a whole row of that larger pattern right around the bottom edge, right up next to that black and white checker. From here, I went ahead and brought in another piece of purple that was rolled out on my Atlas machine on a number 4 setting, created a strip, and went ahead and placed that right next to the bow tie larger pattern on the bottle, finishing up the bottom pattern entirely. So I know, right? I'm bringing back in those Keoker cutters again. Yep, I can't get away from these basic shapes. I love them. I'm cutting a slice here of that purple and white Skinner blend, and I'm just going to go ahead and cut out a piece. I just love that. That's one of my favorite things now. It just seems like, oh, we're going to do this all the time. And I'm placing this down into my design. Once I have this down though where I like it, I like to put a little bit of a line through that middle section. I'm also bringing in some periwinkle and some magenta, and this was a different kind of colored magenta. In the end, I was like, periwinkle, magenta, I went with the other magenta, and so that's what I did. And I thought, let's go ahead and take out some more of those tinier cutters. And I liked that one that was not really, I was looking at this one. I thought, yeah, the leaf shape, no. The teardrop, no. And finally, I just settled on this piece. And it was kind of a little bit like a bit of a awkward square, if you will. I don't know how else to describe it. And I took a couple of those, placed that right next to the piece I just laid down. I add in the lines. I add in the line on the purple and white, and so on. And when I did this, I thought, okay, I really like this feature, all right? I need to make sure, though, that I do this evenly spaced all the way around the bottle. So I figured out by just really kind of by looking from the top and figuring it out from where the bottle was there, where halfway was. Once I had my halfway point, I did another set of that purple and white, cut out that piece, put that directly on the other side, and this way then I was able to build it where I could do it a north, south, east, west, if you will, a cross pattern where it was evenly spaced all the way around the body. I then brought in some black clay, created a few small balls, and placed that right at the center of the flower, and then indenting them with my knitting needle. All right, so here I'm bringing in my two petal canes I wanted to use, my pink and white, and then my magenta with purple and yellow. And I'm placing them right over those little bubble areas on the bottle itself. I thought, why not use the feature of the bottle? There are things when I see some of these glass bottles and I'm like going, that's a neat feature. How could I cover that with the clay and make it look pretty awesome? And so that's kind of what I'm doing right here. I'm taking each little glass teardrop area and placing a long segmented petal cane piece over it. Once I got those petal pieces down, I was still in a dilemma of how do I finish this off? And that's where my Keoker cutters came in one more time and saved me. Yes, especially that decorative one. I like this guy. There's something about this cutter I just get way too happy about. So I went ahead and created some little lines with my knitting needle tool or my needle tool and placed that right in between each little petal piece. And I kind of did it where it tapered into one petal. So in this case, my pink and white, you could have it go the other way onto the purple, pink, and yellow type, but I decided to go with that. And then what I did was, once I got each of those little kind of crazy petals put down, I decided I wanted to go ahead and torment myself some more and create some more of these petals in gray. Right? I mean, hey, bring it on. So I went ahead and created some more of those little gray petals, except for this time I had it in between and over the purple, magenta, yellow kind of petal cane. And to me, it was just a nice little design. It was almost like it went one direction, then the other direction, and so on. Once I had each one of those little gray petals down, though, I brought in some black clay, created some black little balls, and placed those right over the points of where each of those little petals kind of joined up together. At this point, the bottle had become really hard to manage, so I went ahead and baked this at 275 degrees for about 7 to 10 minutes. And then I brought in some green clay and created this little plug. I then took some of that 22 gauge wire, I cut off some short pieces and just started creating little holes in the top here. This is where we're going to be placing some of our leaves and our flowers, along with a little bit of wire that we're going to curl up in the very end. So at that point, I thought, let's go ahead, create the leaf structure around the top. And then once I had that leaf structure around the top all taken care of, I went ahead and baked this one more time. Here I just wanted to show you one of my Columbines that I had finished actually from last time. I didn't like the colors. So I brought in my pastel purple metallic paint and decided to just go ahead and paint up one side of that petal. One, just to give it a little bit of flash, okay, so it became a little bit more interesting. And it also helped the colors in this flower, because to me, I thought I have way too much yellow. Now, for those of you who love yellow and who love kind of more of that peachish type, tannish like tone, this might be right up your alley. But for me, I'm like, oh, no, 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 I want to bring in a little purple or a little bit of my reds, just a little bit more. And in this case, my pale purple, and just paint up part of these petals. All right, so now I'm going to start bringing in some of my extra flowers that I've gotten them all finished up. I'm going to cut them down to where I really like them, kind of becoming that florist once more and arranging them into my bottle here. Once I have that, I'm also going to come in with some of my wire. I'm going to start arranging a little bit of that curling it up, and then topping it all off, of course, with my rhinestones by going ahead and gluing them in to the side of my bottle. But from here, I'm just going to go ahead and let you guys watch my hands talk one more time as I finish up this second fun Columbine flower vase. Okay, so this is the end result of creating my Columbine vases in polymer clay. Please use this for study and reference. And if you like this video, please like, subscribe, and leave me a comment. I'm always wondering what you're thinking. Otherwise, I am sending out my biggest hugs to each of you, and I hope you have a fantastic day.